Jules here for Talk to Me Tuesday on Tuesday, December 5th. It is the first Tuesday in December, and I actually have something project-y to show you. First of all, I'd like you to meet the contraption behind me. That's what my husband has christened this monstrosity. This is a used Grace Next Generation frame and a used Thoth Hobby 1200 Grand Quilter. Over the past month and a half, I got the frame really cheap, and you will understand that caused some issues, so it was a kind of a no questions asked, no guarantees, as is kind of deal. And that's why I got it as cheap as I did, practically free. And I had some issues getting it put together. There were some parts missing. There's still some parts missing, but nothing that affects the actual using of it to quilt. So this has been coming for a long time. I've been saving for it, putting stuff away, because due to some physical issues that I have that I was just born with, and as I get older, they get progressively worse. They get progressively worse over the years, and that is my arthritis, which I inherited, and started at a pretty early age, and makes it difficult for me to crawl around on the floor in based quilts. Spray basting did help a lot with that, but it still was a process that took a decent amount of time, 1 to 2 hours, depending on the size of the quilt. Sometimes longer if it was a really big quilt. And just finding the space to do it in. And so it's been a goal ever since Jennifer got her quilting frame, to find a way to quilt without having to baste the quilt. So that's the deal with this. The Thoth was not my first choice. I would have preferred either the Brother PQ 1500 or... anyway, there's a long story with that. There's other machines I probably would have chosen first. It's working great. The only issue I've had is the feed dog cover I've found vibrates. I kept having broken needles and I couldn't figure out why. And it's because the feed dog cover vibrates so much that it shifts out of place, because it doesn't screw in, it just sits on top. And there's like a couple of little plugs that go in these little holes, but they're not very deep. And the vibration was just too much, and it would knock them off and a needle would break. So it got to the point where it was kind of bent. So I was able to solve that problem with just a couple of pieces of blue painter's tape. It's easy to remove, easy to replace. Easy to get at the bobbin, and then I could just reseal it down, and when the paint gets worn out, or when the tape gets worn out, I just change to new tape. So I've only had to do that once so far. I got the machine a few weeks ago, and there's just been a whole drama going on with this thing that's made it be a 6-week, at least, process from getting the pieces of the frame, getting the room cleaned out enough to make room for it. So now I have my sewing area here, or piecing area, I guess I would call it, in basic sewing. It's a desk that I picked up at Habitat for Humanity's Restore. Beautiful Ethan Allen desk. I got it for $40 with a coupon for signing up for their texts. So beautiful hardwood, dovetail joints. I mean, it's great. Nice and sturdy, no vibration of the Singer. So the Singer patchwork is over there, and I do my piecing on that. Fabric. The giant fabric shelf of bins on wheels is over here to the left of the sewing table, and the shelves that were over the sewing table, I replaced the wire shelving with shorter shelves of the same kind. So I already had everything mounted to the wall. I just had to get shorter shelves and put them up. So they're now just barely longer than the desk itself, and so there was room to put my big tower of fabric over here. still in the process of thinning things out. There's still more stuff I've got to get rid of. I'm still debating keeping it set up at the 10-foot size as opposed to shortening it down to the crib size. But if I do crib size, then it's only 5 feet, and that means I only get, about 4 feet, maybe a little more, of quilting space. So I kind of don't want to do that. If I can make it work like this, I'm going to try it this way for a while, and if I just hate it and it drives me nuts, then I'll change it back. So that's what's been going on here. It's not like a big secret. It was just such a pain in the ass that I didn't want to talk about it until I knew whether it was going to be a keeper or whether I was just going to consider it a lesson learned and lick my wounds and move on. So, I will say it's certainly not going to last forever. I imagine because they're both used, within the next few years, I will probably upgrade to something new. It may be used again, but it'll be something newer and hopefully longer. But I did manage to finish my first. I've been doing some practice quilting, and I've had to tweak it here and there to get it to not screw up. So I've been doing some practice quilting, but none of it was anything I would show anyone that I would want to show anyone. So, but this morning I finished binding my very first quilt that I quilted on the contraption. And it is right here. And I will put a picture in, but I'm just going to show you a little bit so you can maybe see some of the quilting. The fabric on the front was given to me by a coworker who lost her grandmother a couple of years ago, and her Grammy sewed, and she brought me some Christmas fabric and wanted to know if it was something, cotton fabric, and she wanted to know if it was something I could use for Linus, and I said absolutely. So I took it, and then it's proceeded to sit in a baggie in my room. So I decided that my December donation, which will be donation number 12 for 2017, is going to be a Christmas quilt. And it is right here. So the front fabric all came from Grammy. Grammy was in her early 90s when she passed. And so this was all from her stash. I think she was using it to make napkins and just small projects. It wasn't large amounts of fabric, so this did use a good chunk of it. I still have some left over. I have a little bit of the binding, which was this fabric right here with the Christmas trees. I've got a few strips of that left. I've got a little bit of this fabric left. A little bit of this fabric left. And then I have a fabric that I didn't even break into yet. So this one I haven't even used yet. And then the fabric on the back was donated to Project Linus. And I thought it would be fun to kid this quilt up a little bit more because the front really didn't say kid to me. So I brought that flannel home to put on the back because I thought it would be perfect. And it wasn't quite big enough, so I added the red. I brought the red at the same time because I didn't think the green was going to be big enough. And so you can see on the back some of the quilting. And I will say that my needle thread broke once towards the end of this quilt. And I was having some issues getting it taut enough at that point. So there's some stuff I'm still going to be working on and tweaking. But the bobbin thread worked great. I've had no issues with bobbin thread breaking since I got all the stuff worked out. I feel like it really worked out great. But you can really see on the red where the quilting is. And it was the loopy loops here between the reindeer and the sleigh that inspired me to do this particular quilting design, which is just that loopy meander. And it also reminded me of Christmas lights, so I kind of like that. So yeah, so that is bound and labeled right here and washed. I washed it this morning and ready to go to Linus this Saturday. And that will be donation number 12. And I'm thinking I might take some of this leftover fabric that's the same from that quilt, since there's not a ton of that left. And I was thinking I might make a little table runner for Laurel to have for herself. The coworker that gave me the fabric, because I thought that'd be a nice little memento for her, and she loves to really decorate at Christmas, so she has all sorts of tchotchkes everywhere. And yeah, so that's what's going on with me. I will insert a picture of Laurel. You can't really see her. It just sort of chops her head, or she's hiding behind the quilt. But I did take it to work this morning to show her, and she loved it. And she was so happy and felt really privileged to have had Grammy's quilt be the inaugural quilt to be quilted on the contraption. And so I will insert a picture of the complete quilt, front and back, here. And that's all. Yeah, so I look forward to watching everybody's videos. I'm driving down to Las Cruces tomorrow to bring my daughter back from school. She has her last finals today, and so I'm bringing her home tomorrow. Great use of a vacation day, I think, and then we don't lose any weekend, so that's pretty cool. And I get a break in the middle of the week from work, so I thought that was kind of neat. And I had finally accrued enough vacation hours to take a day off, so I'm going to do that tomorrow, and I wanted to make sure I got this video done on my lunch break today. So I look forward to watching your videos, and I will see you next week. Bye!